In the vast, sun-drenched expanse of Zambia's Luangwa Valley, a life began not with a roar but with a fragile whimper. He was a small thing, one of a litter born into the heart of a powerful pride. His mother, a formidable lioness with amber eyes that held the wisdom of many seasons, was torn. The pride does not wait. It moves with the rhythm of the hunt, and it cannot afford to be anchored by weakness. The day of his abandonment was not marked by drama. The pride moved on, leaving him behind as effortlessly as water flows around a stone. He was alone. The world, once a cradle of warmth and security, transformed into an arena of profound and terrifying solitude. To understand his rejection, one must understand the unwritten laws that govern a lion pride. It is a society built on collective strength. There is little room for sentiment when the stakes are life and death. This cold, pragmatic logic is survival in a world of constant threats. A lioness invests enormous energy in raising her cubs. When resources are limited, her focus shifts to offspring with the highest chance of survival. Cubs establish their place through play. A cub that cannot hold its own learns to be submissive, waiting at the fringes for scraps. So it was for our young outcast. His rejection was not malicious, but the outcome of an ancient and brutally efficient system. The Luangwa Valley is a place of breathtaking beauty, but for a lone cub, it was a landscape of 1,000 watchful eyes. The spotted hyenas, with their powerful jaws and unnerving calls, were a constant menace. They would not hesitate to take down a small, isolated lion cub. His other great nemesis was the leopard. These solitary, stealthy cats were masters of ambush, waiting patiently for unwary prey. But the valley was also a classroom. He was a keen observer, absorbing strategies from other creatures, learning not from instruction, but from raw experience. The nights were the hardest. He would find refuge in the deepest thickets, making himself as small as possible, listening to creatures that could end his life in an instant. The cub grew, and the small territory of his infancy was no longer enough. He became a nomad, a wanderer on a path with no destination. He was a teenager now, bearing faint spots of cubhood. His mane was just beginning to sprout, a scruffy collar offering little magnificence. His life was one of scavenging, a high-risk existence. He bore the scars of these encounters, each scar a lesson learned, a reminder of survival's fine line. Yet this difficult life was forging him into a formidable creature. The constant walking built powerful muscles on his once spindly frame. He learned to hunt for himself, mimicking the stealth of leopards and patience of crocodiles. With each attempt, he grew smarter and more confident. Years of wandering had stripped away every vestige of the weak cub he once was. In his place stood a magnificent lion in the prime of his life. A new instinct was stirring, the urge to claim territory. He would leave scent marks and practice his roar, announcing to resident kings that a new power had arrived. The inevitable confrontation came on a dusty plain at sunset. The territory was held by two brothers, long-reigning kings who had grown complacent. The battle was terrifying, but the challenger had an edge: desperation. For him, this was a fight for everything he had never had: a home, a pride, a future. His ferocity was shocking. He defeated the first brother, and the second, seeing this untamed fury, hesitated. In the world of lions, hesitation is fatal. And just like that, it was over. The outcast stood alone, bloodied but victorious. He lifted his head and let out a roar, not of challenge but of triumph. A king had been forged. His reign began. The territory he had won was a prize beyond measure, a rich stretch of valley with access to the river, plentiful game, and shaded acacia groves. His first act as king was to patrol his new domain, overwriting the scent marks of previous rulers. This was more than a claim. It was a promise to defend against all challengers. The lionesses, initially wary of this scarred male, quickly accepted his rule. He was a different kind of king, ruling not with brute force alone, but with quiet, confident authority. His powerful roar became the defining sound of this part of the valley, the sound of order and security, a declaration of protection for his pride. He watched his own cubs play, strong and confident under his watchful eye. He showed them tolerance and patience that he had never been afforded, a gentle giant among his kin. When kills were made, he ensured his cubs ate, standing guard over the carcass. He was building not just a pride, but a dynasty founded on strength earned through suffering. A king's reign, like the seasons, is finite. Years passed, and the great lion's mane began to be flecked with gray. Younger nomads began testing his territory, just as he had done. He did not relinquish his throne easily, fighting with veteran wisdom. But time is an opponent no creature can defeat. Eventually, a stronger coalition pushed him from his throne. He was defeated but not broken. He retreated with quiet dignity, becoming a wanderer once more, his life coming full circle. No longer a frightened novice, but a living legend. When his time finally came, he lay down in the shade of an ancient baobab tree, the great heart that had beaten so stubbornly finally coming to rest. His legacy was etched in the dust of the valley and in the genes of his many offspring. His story became a whisper on the wind, the rejected cub who defied all odds. The journey of the Lion of Luangwa Valley is a perfect hero's tale, written by nature itself. His story serves as a powerful reminder that the circumstances of our birth do not dictate the legacy we leave behind. He was, and always will be, the king who was never meant to. The Luangwa Valley is a land carved by a great river, a place of raw, untamed life, one of Africa's richest wildlife sanctuaries. Seasons paint extremes, emerald green in the rains, and dusty brown when the rivers shrink. This is a kingdom, and its rulers are the lions. They live in dynasties, prides bound by blood and rank. The lionesses are the heart of the pride, expert hunters who decide fate on the floodplain. Dominant males patrol boundaries, roar to declare dominion. Within the pride, cubs find protection, a shield against the wild's cruelty. Strength is currency. Belonging is everything in this ancient order. But sometimes, nature follows a path not written by dynasties. A small cub can be born into greatness and also into oblivion. This valley shapes destinies. It rewards the strong, and it will test the weak. Here, every life is a story of survival, strategy, and sometimes surprising triumph. This is the Valley of Giants, and this is where our tale begins. In the Nsefu Pride, a small cub was born, the last of a fading bloodline. He was smaller, quieter, overlooked in the scramble for food and favor. Mother's resources were stretched. Elders looked to stronger cubs. The runt became an afterthought. He learned early to be invisible. Patience and observation became his first teachers. There was no dramatic exile. It was a slow drift. The pride moved on, and he could not keep pace. One dawn, the tracks led away without a backward glance. Survival's harsh calculus at work. Left behind, he was no longer a prince. He was solo, a lone creature in a kingdom of giants. His identity stripped, protection gone. His fate seemed sealed, but in that abandonment there was a seed. A quiet rebirth of will. He would learn the rules of the valley alone, or not at all. Hiding, watching, conserving energy. Small lessons that would become his strength. The valley itself would become his tutor. Alone, he takes his first step toward a destiny no one in the pride foresaw. Without pride, nature became his mentor. He watched with the intensity of someone who must learn everything. From crocodiles, he learned stillness, waiting like a log until the perfect moment. He learned to become a shadow on the bank. Elephants taught him leadership rooted in knowledge and care, how to read the land. From them, he learned where to find water in dry seasons. From buffalo, he learned courage and the power of unity. He learned when to avoid danger and when to press an advantage. He learned to catch what others dismissed, monitor lizards, birds, small antelope. Energy is precious, waste none of it. This became a doctrine. Patience, timing, and stealth, the valley's curriculum for survival. Slowly, he stitched these lessons into skill. The valley noticed a lone shadow that did not waste its strength. Rivals began to regard him differently, not a fancy of fate, but a persistent presence. He remained unseen until the moment to act. 2 seasons failed. The Luangwa River shrank. The floodplains turned to cracked earth. Game scattered, water ran to trickles, hunger turned neighbors into competitors. Prides fractured, kings grew thin and irritable, the old order showed new cracks. For Solo, hardship was familiar, and suddenly it was an edge. He used knowledge gleaned from elephants to find hidden seeps and patch water. A weakened giant stumbled upon the small warthog Solo had taken. Size should have decided it. The larger male expected the small one to flee, but Solo did not run. He stood low, muscles coiled, patience honed by crocodiles. He let the giant waste energy in clumsy lunges, and then answered with precise strikes. Claws tore across his face, teeth found muscle, pain turned to scars, his first crown. The giant crashed down. The valley took notice. The wounds healed into visible marks, a map of survival. Guides and trackers would later point to those scars and whisper his name. He did not roar to be noticed. He consolidated a marginal patch with quiet vigilance. He learned the game trails, the ambush thickets, the secret seeps others missed. When tested, he fought with precision. Pain for them, little waste for himself. He expanded not with thunder, but as a ripple across the floodplain. He waited for rivals to weaken one another in chaotic clashes. Then he moved, not to seize entire prides, but to claim pieces and win loyalties. He defended them with a ferocity born of everything he had lost. He fathered cubs, the living proof that a forgotten bloodline had not died. Under his guidance, the small pride hunted efficiently, patient stalks and surprise ambushes. He led them to hidden springs in hard times, proof of knowledge and care. His silent presence at rival borders unnerved larger males more than noise ever could. Old kings, broken by drought and fights, yielded territory. He inherited by attrition and guile. Piece by piece he moved toward the central floodplain, the richest ground in Luangwa. Lionesses joined, cubs grew, his dynasty took root. Guides and researchers began to note the pattern, a small male who outlasted others. He watched over his growing realm. Coalitions of nomadic males tested him. He met them with strategy and heart. Tactics won more often than brawn, feints, timing, and targeted strikes. He fought for more than meat. He fought for his cubs, for a future. Every scar told a lesson. Every lesson hardened his rule. For over a decade, he held the central floodplain, a remarkable tenure in lion terms. His face bore the history of battles, scars that had become a crown. Under his rule, the pride prospered, stable, efficient, defended. Guides told his tale around campfires. The valley had a new legend. Researchers and locals passed on stories of the lion who defeated fate. Even younger lions hesitated, haunted by his reputation and the visible map of his scars. His life came full circle, a rejected cub who became a father and a king. He taught his cubs the lessons he had learned from crocodiles, elephants, and buffalo. His reign brought a rare calm to a valley once in turmoil. His scars were a crown, his roar became a throne. On the ridges at dawn, his silhouette declared a kingdom he had earned. His bloodline carried on, descendants that bore his lessons and his calm authority. Around campfires and in fields, people told the story of the former outcast. The Valley of Giants holds many stories. This one reminds us, weakness can be forged into strength, solitude into leadership, rejection into destiny. This was the story of Solo, the cub who became king of Luangwa. Narration end.